This has been a real eye-opener, this, and as I say, I would love to speak to anyone from the Jewish fraternity who would like to question me about, like you have. I mean, you're good enough. I mean, I'm staggered that the Jewish hierarchy haven't barreled you for speaking to these people.
Just gonna fix it.
Yeah. So this is a bit. So this is a bit what Mr. Cottrell did. He wanted me to shake my hand and then was going to just promote me. So you want me to put this on? This would say, look at this. Sam has decided to have a bar mitzvah.
Do you feel used?
You're not. I've just said that.
Yeah, no. I just want to make sure we.
So I'll tell you what, we've done this for half an hour. You're going to get 10 seconds out of this.
No,
and that's the answer. Do you think I've been used? Of course I was used. I told you I've been exploited by someone who hasn't got the ethics and morals that I have and has used me for a greater purpose. I took them at face value to come in here and be interviewed. Little did I know that one of them was going to use me as a recruiting tool. That is what... The only thing I'm pissed off about is that.
Australian football legend Sam Newman is making headlines today after platforming neo-Nazis on his podcast earlier this week. Unlike many of his critics, I actually watched the full episode, which makes it clear that he is in no way supporting them. In fact, the consistent theme throughout the conversation was Sam Newman mocking the pair. So instead of joining the mob in the mainstream media and talking about Sam, I decided today to go to his studio to talk to Sam. This was our chat we had a few hours ago.
I'll sit closer.
Closer? This is starting to feel a little bit gay. I don't know if we're going to be able to join the National Socialists with...
They said if you're not gay, you're all right. And said there's an age limit. I have to give you $50. And I said, I'm white, I said I'm through to the semis without dropping a set so far.
I saw that. How does it feel to be able to get into that club? Because I'm brown, they're not going to accept me. I'm not gay, but my wife has big balls, so I don't know if that counts. And thirdly, I'm a Jew, so I'm not going to pay $50. So I'm not in.
So say you were white and not gay, and you were a Jew, could you join what is their thing? The
National Socialists.
Yes. Could you join that?
No, I don't.
Being Jewish cancels you out immediately.
It's true.
Does it really?
Apparently. Did you ask him?
No, I didn't ask him. But you've qualified as many. You're not gay. It doesn't matter. God, it doesn't matter if you are. You're not gay, and if you're white, you've qualified as much as I have, and you got $50. You could be. I'm not sure what disqualifies you other than being a Jew. I could have said I'm a Jew, and I couldn't join.
Was it tempting to join?
Oh shit! Yeah, I was just getting ready to get into the physical aspect of training up and marching and building the living suitcase out of people on street corners and shouting, and I got a couple of swastika designs made for some T-shirts here. It's pathetic, isn't it, that you even talk about it? In fact, I only dignify doing this just to show how ridiculous all this has become. All I wanted to do, because the press keep putting people like that and other bad actors in society in the media at functions, and I thought, well, I'd never heard of them. I said, I'll ring one of them up. I found the number of Thomas Sewell, and I said, come in and have a chat to me. This is what I do. I do a podcast. How that can be a problem, I don't know. But, well, all hell's broken loose because I'm giving succour and comfort to neo-Nazis. If you've watched the interview, I tried to actually, without... I was going to say embarrassing them, or I was trying to take the piss out of them, most of the things I said.
Well, I did watch the whole thing, unlike many of the critics, because I think a lot of the critics came out before they could even possibly watch it because it hadn't been published yet. I did watch the full thing. I can't see how anyone who actually watched it would think you're on the side of the neo-Nazis. You were mostly taking the piss out of them.
It's encouraging, Avi. I'm Harvey. I'm glad that you've thought that I couldn't possibly be on the side. This sounds so. All this sounds immediately like I'm anti-Semitic and I'm anti-Jewish. Why do I have to? Nothing could be further. It's embarrassing to even have to state that. There's an old saying, "Thou protesteth too much." The more I go on about this, the more people say, "Well, he keeps whinging about it." I tell you what I'm whinging. The only thing I'm whinging about is that I asked that boy Sewell to come in. He brought his mate in, and he wasn't invited. No matter, he's a liar. Besides being a turd, he's a liar because he smooched his way in here and he said, "Do you mind if I sit in there?" I said, "No, go right ahead." He said, "I might chip in occasionally." I said, "Do whatever you like, mate." So I started speaking to Mr. Sewell and then off he went. And so the only thing at the end is that he, and I'm a bit naive, I'm not whinging, mate, I've been belted for years, I don't care. But he got me to shake his hand, and little did I know that that was a precursor to him using me as publicity to say I'm one of them and I'm joining the cause, and to use it as a publicity vehicle with my name attached to it.
So do you regret having him in? Would you do it again?
Absolutely. I would. I won't have them in again because I've interviewed them. I don't regret doing it at all, except the only thing I regret is standing in front of this thing like anyone that comes. I've interviewed, here we go, protesting too much. I've interviewed bank robbers, in this studio right here, pedophiles, bank robbers, murderers, mafia representatives from overseas, porn star, you name it. I've interviewed them, and we always stand in front of that sign and I do a promo, and a 60-second promo saying, on the podcast I interviewed this person here. Probably after this, I don't know, I'll probably stand in front of this and have a photograph with you.
That's dangerous.
No, that's not dangerous. But if I'd asked you to come in here and you and I didn't get on with you, and I had you in here absolutely to grill you about what you're on about, I'd still stand and have a photograph. I wouldn't shake. The other boy insisted I shake his hand. I thought, what could be wrong with that? And that's what's wrong with it. That is what's got, I believe, me into trouble. I make no apology for speaking to them. They're people of interest. The media keep making them people of interest. We're in the media. And
so what would you say to people that watched it and go, yeah, you, like I watched it all the way through. I can see that you most of the time when you opened your mouth, you were almost taking the piss out of them. So I could see that you weren't taking them very seriously at what.
Hang on. Couldn't take them very. Tell me what you thought I was taking them seriously about. Just one thing.
I agree. And again, I'm somebody that watched it all the way through, and I can see how the conversation went. I could see how Blair Cottrell tried to insert himself at certain points and present himself as a pseudo-intellectual with his glasses. Suddenly he's got glasses that he wears. If you've been following Blair for a few years, you'll know that he used to be the guy.
He was inherently dishonest.
Well, he used to be the guy at the front of protests with the big megaphones and screaming. Yeah, the bullhorn.
So you tell me more about those people. I never knew I never saw any of those people except in the last Australia Day when they were rounded up and shouting at Channel 9 or doing something or being arrested in Adelaide, and I thought, I'd never heard of them. Honestly, I'd never heard of them. I don't follow the news much, the mainstream media. And I thought, well, there'd be a nice person. There would be a person of interest to interview about what in the hell they're on about. I could tell they were neo-Nazis, or he was a neo-Nazi, because they said they were on the media. The media keep putting them on. And the very paper, the Herald Sun, who belted me, well, I'm not sure that they actually belted me. They said it was a shocking interview and it was a disgrace and all that. I actually tend to agree with them. I'm not sure if they're having a go at me or certainly the people on it. I don't back down from that. But they said they'd criticised me for interviewing, and yet on the page 3 of the Herald Sun the next day, there's a picture of them, me, and one of them doing a Nazi salute. And I said, well, they've just put it in the paper, and they're criticising me for speaking to them.
The media is known for their hypocrisy, and it's clear that the media have been promoting these guys for a few years now.
You spoke to these guys.
I have myself as well. So I was going to get onto that. I've personally.
Did the Jewish hierarchy chip you for doing it?
No, I think in my case, so it was a protest. There were two sides of a protest. There were the neo-Nazis and there were the so-called anti-fascists. Antifa.
Yeah.
And they were protesting against each other, although it got confusing at times because at times they were actually
And why
both
were
saying
you
the
there?
same thing. I was there to challenge
It was
both sides and
genuine
a news story.
Genuine news of interest story about people who are in this society, and you wonder why, and they're bad actors, and they're bad actors.
You know who smacked me over the head that day?
No,
Not the Nazis. It was actually the
Antifa.
Antifa. They were dressed the same. They were all in black. They were both screaming "Free Palestine." I found that interesting. Yeah. But the idea of talking to them, I don't think is. I think you should. I think we need to hear crazy people and expose their crazy beliefs. But what would you say to people who think that interview or that photo is being used to recruit, for them to recruit more members?
What would I say? Well, that I've said at the start of this, the only thing that has ticked me off is that I was either naive enough or I'm moral and ethical enough not to think that someone would come in here, even uninvited, use me shaking their hand as a recruiting tool for their nefarious operations that they run. That's the only thing that I'm really annoyed about, nothing else.
I know you haven't been through this, but tell us how you really feel about Blair Cottrell.
Well,
Don't hold back. I know you've held back till now. Tell us what you really feel. So he's come in here uninvited.
So I know you'll clip this out and make this a standalone piece. I understand that. But I won't say anything I haven't already said publicly. Blair Cottrell is a piece of snot. He is a crud. He is a dishonest operator. He's a liar. He was not asked to come in here. I rang Tom Sewell and said, would you come in? He brought him in. He stood over there. He said, do you mind if I sit there? I said, no, sit there if you wish. You can sit anywhere you like. He said, I might jump in. Jump in if you wish, mate, if you want to add to something to what Tom... So then his motives, obviously, his ulterior motive was to use me, who has a profile. As the botanists, I'm a creeper. The botanists call them parasites. They cling around the stems of stronger beings and use their juices to live. That's what he did. He was a staff fucker. He said how he loved what I did on the Footy show. And as I say, a little wet behind the ears as far as that, because I would never do that to anyone. And they knew why they were in here. Tom knew why he was in here. In fairness to Tom, I don't have to be fair to Tom, but he was polite and wasn't. He was polite. All right, I have nothing in common with either of them. Certainly, I'd have nothing in common with either of them. But the other bloke was obviously in here to exploit the fact that I was sitting here and he was going to use me. That's what annoys me, nothing else.
So what do you actually feel about Tom? I get that he was polite in the meeting, and that's what I found when I interviewed him. I guess he was sort of polite. He was probably a bit more hostile to me because I guess I don't fit the category of...
No, but did you say you interviewed him?
I interviewed him.
Yeah.
So he was a bit more hostile to me, but he still gave me the interview, and I didn't get bashed like I did when I interviewed the other side. But as a person, you have very strong words about Blair. Yeah. What do you think about Tom?
He was personable enough to come in here at my invitation. He didn't seek me out. I thought, here's a person of interest. Come in here and I'll have it like I've done to many people. He was polite and he was personable. I have nothing in common with him. I don't admire him. I don't admire what he's on about. I just think it's a disgrace it's a disgrace that this is going on. We have enough troubles in the country at the minute without it being stoked by... He said, I said, he got onto hate speech. He said, well, we're not hate speech. I said, what, doing a Nazi salute while it's not verbal? Would you not say that that's, I was trying to state the bleeding obvious, but they are paranoid about who they are, and they're almost delusional about who they are and what they're on about. but they're allowed to be, except they shouldn't be allowed to do what they do. If they want to do it in the privacy of their own land, they buy a lot of land and they have a whole lot of white people living on it and don't let anyone else in, and they don't go out and annoy people. You can do what you like. Actually, we are still a free country. But when you go out and intimidate people by just what you look like and what you do, I have nothing... Once again, why would I have to say nothing in common with those people?
No. So with Blair, you recognise that he took that photo to use it to promote his own cause.
Yes.
With Tom, so obviously online, I don't know if you've seen this, online on Twitter, on TikTok, there's lots of videos now that are clipped from that podcast, which people who don't get to see the whole context like I do, where you were actually mocking them through almost all of it. They've clipped it in the perfect spots where Tom goes on a rant at you about whatever nutty idea he had. And then they cut it with basically your face. Maybe you can watch it however you like. You watch it and you go, oh, look at that. Sammy is interested in what they've got to say. And I
was interested in what they've got to say. Absolutely.
So how do you feel that that's being used to then, recruit more people?
I've sought some legal advice since about that very thing. Are they able legally to imply that I'm part of their organisation by editing clips and taking out of context shots of me at an interview I did? But as I say, sounds like I'm protesting too much.
I'm not talking about protesting legally. I'm asking how. So when I asked you, do you regret anything? So you regret the photo because obviously it was taken.
The photo is the only thing I regret, that I stood there and that photo was used to use me as a recruiting implement to give legitimacy to an organisation that, need I say it, is abhorrent to everyone except their followers and their members. I asked them how many members they had. I think they said there was a band of, 250 who march and train. I said, what do you march and train for? Is this because you're going to assault and attack people? And they said, no, I don't know what they said.
They've got about 17 that always march. I think they pumped up their numbers. I think the media's also blown them out of proportion. But
the media, eh? Well, that's how I got to know about them. You said that they've been marches. I've never heard of them. Anyone will tell you I don't. No interest in the mainstream media. I'm interested in American politics, much more than ours here. I don't read the papers. I don't get the paper. I don't subscribe online to any of the papers. I've never really heard of them, except when they appear in the paper. I thought, well, that'd be a good interview. That would be an interesting interview, to interview one of these people, that person, Thomas.
I can understand that, working in the space that I work into. I agree with you. But again, forget the legal ramifications or fighting it. Does it upset you that parts of it have been taken out of context?
Does it upset me? Yeah. It annoys the hell out of me. It just annoys me to think that I have been played and exploited for something I have no interest in, beyond my control, and it's made me... I've handled plenty of criticism and I've copped plenty over the years. That's fine. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. But it is absolutely dishonest to portray me as being anything but an anti what they're on about. And unfortunately, people are thinking the opposite, that I am quite conducive to what they're on about, and I have a soft spot for them, and I can see basically what they're on about. That is what annoys me, because I didn't shout at them, I didn't push back at them. I said, go on, talk for as long as you like, mate. You tell us. And some said, why didn't you say, well, that's nonsense? I said, well, what I have to say when they say that... I don't know, there's no such thing as the Holocaust. I said, would I have to say that's nonsense? Would I have to interject the bleeding obvious? I said, just let them go and just see how big a dickheads they make of themselves. Or I think they make of themselves. They are delusional and they're in denial about what they say, but they're... Thomas Sewell, he is... absolutely sincere in his beliefs. He absolutely believes what he says, so he is legitimate in what he says.
Do you think he's dangerous?
Of course he's dangerous, because this is what I said to him. it mightn't be hate speech, but it manifests itself into shouting at people verbally and then pushing them and then assaulting them and then having an all-in brawl with the coppers, with the police, and then having an all-in brawl with the protesters of theirs, and then it just expands into the community, and that's how it starts. So, of course, they're dangerous because they incite people to take umbrage at what they say and what they do.
What would you say to people that have only seen the little clips that are on social media and not the entire podcast? So the people that have watched those clips that have been shared by their groups that portray you as sympathetic to their cause. What would you say to them?
Well, I've stopped using Twitter, now X. A long time ago I thought, this has nothing to do with this. This was years ago. haven't been on X or Twitter for years.
You need to come back. It's good these days.
No, because I thought, why would I have a battle of wits with morons who just keep belting you about something? The only time I've replied to a few is a bloke, just read one before you came in. He said, I hope karma gets you. My mother and father or relations were in prison in Dachau. They were gassed and all that. And he said, no, you are a disgrace and I hope that karma comes and gets you. And I thought, holy shit. So I texted back, I said, you obviously haven't listened to the podcast and doesn't matter, I wish you well. So he has an opinion of me that I'm suddenly, because of what he's probably seen, and that is the unintended consequence or the collateral damage of what those people do. And what Cottrell did, and he set out to do that. He set out to use me. That's the only thing.
But it's also that you keep saying just Cottrell, but it's also Sewell. They are using the clips to promote their agenda and use your fame to amplify it. That's what they're doing. They're taking little. That's not just
the only things I've seen on but I've been shown. The only things I've been shown comes off Cottrell's.
No. He's directly taken that photo. But I'm talking about these clips from within the podcast, which are legitimate clips. They're just taken from, let's say, 2 minutes to 2:30, where Sewell is just having a rant at you. Yeah. You're looking interested because you probably are interested. But it's taken the rest of it all out of context, so we don't get to see in those short clips that you're actually mocking a lot of the, pretty much everything.
So why would they do? So why wouldn't they do that? If their modus operandi is to have me look as though I've joined or I'm sympathetic to their cause, why would they show me a bit of disdain or with a smirk on my face or rolling my eye? Why would they show that? So I'm just saying the only clips I've seen of taking me or it out of context, the whole thing came on Cottrell's X or feed, which I think they've been banned now, cancelled off, haven't they?
I think so, yes.
Oh, well, someone said they had.
Do you think that's good? Do you believe in...
Well, no, that's a good question. That's a good question about free speech. Should you give people like that the chance to say what they want? There's a very interesting question. Where do you, can you be a little bit pregnant? What is hate speech? That's a very good question. Now, people will say, I didn't say, they should be taken off. That's a disgrace that they're still there. That's not the question. The bigger question is, where do you draw the line at what people can say? Can I call you or can you call me a pedophile? And I'll say, well, I'm actually not a pedophile, but that's free speech. Well, where does that start and end? So that's the danger of all this, and that's what they probably get away with doing up until probably a couple of days ago that they've been cancelled. They probably think that's free speech and they can get away with doing that in a society that prides itself on giving people the right to speak.
Do you see my T-shirt? So this is from the Rebel Store, rebelstore.com. So it says, silence me and I get louder, because, we do believe in free speech at Rebel News, even if it's speech, you know which speech you have to defend. It's not the speech you like. Speech that you like, you generally want to amplify. Speech you want to, that hurts you, them painting you as a Nazi. Me as a Jew watching when people... or over the last 15, 16 months, watching people lie about Israel. I hate seeing that speech, but that's the kind of speech I feel like we need to defend. Otherwise, at the end of the day, if we silence people because I'm offended, well, the next guy is going to be offended by me, is going to silence me. Is that not true?
That is a rhetorical question. You know the answer to that. I saw a T-shirt on a bloke last year, and I had no idea who he was, and I took a photo of him. He said, "What are you taking a photo of me for?" I said, "Mate, that is a fantastic T-shirt. It had, I was starting to like you until you had an opinion." And I said, "That is brilliant." I said, "Where'd you get that from?" He said, "My niece said that to me. We were having a discussion, argument about, it might have been football or something. And she said, I was starting to like you, Pops or Grandpa, until you had an opinion." He said, "I thought it was," and that is exactly right. Until you have an opinion, we all get on well. Yeah. And that's that opinion that doesn't agree with people is what starts virulent arguments, and then violence, and then pushing and shoving, and then all-out mayhem.
Tell me, you would have anyone on the podcast, so you would even have pedophiles?
I would have anyone on the podcast I thought was a person of interest. I would have Harvey Weinstein, I'd have Jeffrey Epstein, I'd have the Ayatollah Khomeini. If Hitler was available, I'd have him. Is that, someone said, oh...
Does that mean, do you agree with all those people?
Well, let's go through that. Do I agree with Harvey Weinstein touching up women just so that they can get a job if he doesn't screw them? Do you think I agree with that? Do you think I agree with Jeffrey Epstein, grooming and massaging and having an island where he takes young girls so that they can have sex orgies? Do you think I agree with that? Do you think I agree with the Ayatollah Khomeini? Do you think that wants to?
What don't you like about the Ayatollah? He's a holy man.
Well, I tell you what I don't like about him. As I say, I have no skin in the game with the Palestinians or the Jews or the Jewish fraternity. But when someone says that they are in existence solely to create a nuclear bomb so that they can wipe Israel off the face of the earth, that probably qualifies to the fact that he is an ordinary person.
What do you think about Trump? I know you love American politics. What do you think about Trump's latest comments today?
Fantastic. They've talked about how they will bring peace to that area since it was made it was given to the Israeli since 1945 or whenever.
48.
Thank you. I knew you would know that. Since 1948. All they do is talk. He has at least put forward a proposition. He says, we will take over the Gaza. We will make it the Mecca of the Saint-Tropez of the Middle East. And people have sat back, he's clipped their ears, and at least he's come up with a proposal. It probably won't get far, but he's made sure that Iran is not going to have a nuclear bomb. And he said, I wonder if the press picked up, I watched it this morning, he said, and if they come after me and they do what they tried to do twice now, is shoot me and kill me, I have left orders that you decimate that country, that you wipe it off the face of the earth. I'm staggered no one's picked that up yet because I watched him say it. So he must have left orders in a sealed envelope that if I die and it's sheeted home to Iran, go for it. Trump is absolutely the most extraordinary person I've ever seen.
But why does that upset the ABC? Why is the ABC in meltdown over the fact that he's got a new idea?
They're a social radical leftist elite that run it. And they talk about our ABC. It's your ABC. It ain't my ABC. They are just a bunch of. They're just a bunch of low IQ operatives. Did you watch the New Year's Eve celebration?
Oh, yes.
How many times could we draw a reference to the people who were here previously on this country? Yeah. How many times can we complain and apologise? It was. I didn't know. Why am I saying this? Was someone said they watched it? They kept watching it because of the cringeworthy nature.
That's how I dealt with it.
Tell me on and on about it.
Have you received any threats after this saga?
Oh, I haven't, but maybe I have online. I don't read any of the stuff. Maybe
I'm talking about physical. Has it affected you any other ways? You've interviewed a lot of controversial people. Yeah. In fact, didn't you interview the guy that just got shot killed?
Yeah, absolutely. He stood in front of him, shook his hand. He took his vest off and showed us the 8 bullet holes from his previous attempt on his life. didn't get all this angst about. It's amazing.
I guess he probably doesn't like Jews, or didn't like Jews very much neither.
Well, I didn't ask him that.
But nobody seemed upset by Victoria's most notorious criminal here with you.
No one,
and it's not even historic. He was a current.
Yeah, no one has been upset at anyone I've interviewed. Not that I know of. This has been a real eye-opener, this, and as I say, I would love to speak to anyone from the Jewish fraternity who would like to question me about, like you have. I mean, you're good enough. I mean, I'm staggered that the Jewish hierarchy haven't barreled you for speaking to these people.
Just going to fix it.
Yeah. So this is a bit. What Mr. Cottrell did. He wanted me to shake my hand and then was going to just promote me. So you want me to put this on? This would say, look at this. Sam has decided to have a bar mitzvah.
Do you feel used?
You're not. I've just said that.
Yeah, no. I just want to make sure we.
So I'll tell you what, we've done this for half an hour. You're going to get 10 seconds out of this.
No,
that's the answer. Do you think I've been used? Of course I was used. I told you I've been exploited by someone who hasn't got the ethics and morals that I have and has used me for a greater purpose. I took them at face value to come in here and be interviewed. Little did I know that one of them was going to use me as a recruiting tool. That is what... The only thing I'm pissed off about is that.
But both of them are using you as a recruiting tool.
All right.
Let me ask you let's look at the headlines today. You've called, I thought that was exclusive to us. You called him a parasite. You've called.
No, I did that. Yeah.
Yeah. I was joking. Sam Newman makes fresh claim about now. So the media is obsessed with that story.
Yeah, they're obsessed with it because they think they're bad actors in society. Who wouldn't think that, except their supporters? And they are trying to prove the point. And they're giving me not a backhanded compliment by saying that I say they're pieces of crud, or one of them is, or maybe both of them are, but they're giving me a sort of a backhanded compliment, but a kicking on the way through.
Finally, did you just join the Jews because we're not charging $50? We were charging $35.99 to join our fraternity?
If I was gay, could I still become a Jew?
Why not?
What?
You can join us. We want you, Sammy.
Mate, I'll join.
We'll give you a discount, 50% off.
I'll join anyone at this stage.
That's the real test to whether you're ready to join us.
If I can pay.
If you demand 50% off.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I want it wholesale. Yeah.
Thanks, mate, for your time. By the way, why haven't you had Rukshan and I on your podcast? Do you only have white supremacists?
Do I only have white supremacists?
You don't have to think that long. Is it Rukshan? Is it Rukshan you don't like?
I'll tell you why I think... Because never answer an obvious question with an obvious answer, or it just becomes a stilted, boring, beige conversation. If you can give someone an answer that makes them think, why'd you say that? Like I've said to a few of your questions, as I say, you wouldn't dignify an answer to most of the things you've asked me because they speak for themselves, but I'm happy. Would I only have white supremacists on here? Well, I'm speaking to you, aren't I?
No, I mean, why didn't you? Rukshan's sitting at home offended. Like, I think the most offensive thing to Rukshan, who was did the podcast with us, who's dark Sri Lankan.
Yeah, I know him.
While everyone was angry about the general anti-Semitism or whatever they were saying, Rukshan was sitting there and he was just hurt that he's never been invited.
He was probably hurt that his old country of Ceylon, they renamed Sri Lanka.
You think that's what it's about?
Probably. He probably doesn't even know they were named Ceylon before they named them Sri Lanka. But I don't have... what's his name?
Rukshan.
I don't have Rook's number. That's why he hasn't been on the podcast.
I'll make sure you get it.
I thought you were going to say that.
Rukshan, you're going to get an invite. He's the only person in Australia who has the time, the patience and the willingness to fight those Nazis online on Twitter. I just couldn't be bothered. But
I told you that before. I haven't been on Twitter or X.
you need to come back.
No, I can't be. I don't know why I tumbled into it. I tumbled into a few people who said I should be ashamed of myself because their mothers and fathers died in Auschwitz, and I thought, no, that's about it. I mean, if you can draw that conclusion to the interview that I had, I'm actually going to say, look, I'm sorry that you've obviously not listened to the podcast, but all the best anyhow.
If you enjoyed my conversation with Sam Newman about his latest controversy, make sure to like, comment, but most importantly, share this far and wide, because open any of the newspapers across the country today and it'll be telling a very different story about the football legend. Then head over to rebelstore.com.au and get yourself some merch, including this special t-shirt in honor of Sam Newman. Rebelstore.com.au. Stand for something while looking good and supporting your favorite news network. Rebelstore.com.au.